The Galactic Council mocked a human, until he inherited the king's ugly daughter. Towering pillars of shimmering crystal reflected the soft glow of hundreds of hovering lights, creating a spectacle that would have awed any newcomer. But Kale, a human from the distant colony world of Earthra, felt nothing but tension as he stood at the center of the hall, dwarfed by representatives from countless alien civilizations. His chest tightened, and he adjusted his simple tunic nervously. Unlike the aliens around him who wore ornate robes or gleaming armor, he looked and felt like a child in a room full of giants. "Is this really happening?" Kale whispered to himself. "Humans in the Galactic Council, really?" Behind him, a low murmur of amusement rippled through the chamber. Kale turned slightly and caught the first glimpse of the council members. There were beings with skin that shimmered like molten metal, others with translucent bodies revealing glowing internal structures, and some whose forms defied basic geometry. They looked at him with polite curiosity at first, which quickly morphed into barely concealed amusement. The head of the council, a tall being with 6 eyes and a voice like grinding stone, cleared his throat. "Let us begin," he said. "Today we hear from the human representative, a species known for its primitive achievements. Let us see what novelty they bring." The words stung Kale, but he forced himself to stand straighter. Humans were not the strongest, the fastest, or the most technologically advanced species, but they had something the council often overlooked: ingenuity, adaptability, and courage in the face of impossible odds. Kale's mind raced. He would have to prove it here, in this room full of beings who had already decided he was insignificant. He stepped forward, hands clasped behind his back, and cleared his throat. "Esteemed members of the council," he began, voice steady despite the pounding of his heart. "I represent humanity, a species that has faced great challenges and overcome them through creativity, cooperation, and determination. We may seem primitive to you, but our strength lies not in our size, speed, or technology alone. It lies in our willingness to act when others hesitate, to find solutions where none appear possible." A low, mocking chuckle echoed through the hall. One of the council members, a tall figure with 6 wings and silver feathers, leaned forward. "Solutions where none exist. How quaint. Perhaps your species can amuse us with stories, but in matters of politics and interstellar governance, humans are children playing with toys beyond their understanding." Kale's jaw tightened. He had expected mockery, but the scorn was sharper than he had imagined. He took a deep breath, refusing to shrink back. "Children can learn," he said quietly, "and sometimes children grow to accomplish what the elders cannot." Another ripple of laughter spread across the room. Kale could feel the weight of hundreds of eyes on him, all judging, all doubting. But then a surprising voice broke through the laughter. "You speak boldly, human," said a voice warm yet commanding. "But words alone do not prove capability." All eyes turned toward a figure stepping forward. He was human-like in shape, but taller than Kale had ever seen. His attire was regal, adorned with symbols of authority. Kale quickly realized this was no council member. This was King Varen, ruler of a distant, influential planet known for its strict social hierarchy and pride in appearance. "King Varen," the council head said, bowing slightly, "we were unaware you would attend." "I am not here as a council member," Varen replied. "I am here to make an announcement that may alter the balance of power in ways even you cannot predict." His eyes, sharp and assessing, swept the hall before resting on Kale. "It concerns this human." A hush fell over the hall. Kale's pulse quickened. What could a king possibly want with him? Varen continued, "I have a daughter, Arlena. She has lived her life in the shadow of expectations, judged by superficial standards and dismissed for her appearance. She is considered unattractive by my court, and therefore unfit for the alliances and marriages typically arranged by a king. But I have watched her grow, and I have seen her intelligence, her courage, and her wisdom. I have decided that the one who shall inherit her and the responsibilities that come with her shall be this human." A stunned silence followed. Kale blinked. "Me?" he whispered, barely able to comprehend the words. "Yes," King Varen said firmly. "This human, laughed at by your council, is the one who will prove worthy of my daughter's hand and the role she will play in the political future of this sector." The council erupted in outrage and laughter. "You cannot be serious," shouted one being with crystalline limbs. "A human, a species so insignificant." Varen's voice cut through the noise. "I am serious. The time has come to see what humans are truly capable of. Let him inherit my daughter, and let the council witness whether your judgments of our species are accurate." Kale felt every eye on him. Some were incredulous, some amused, and some, surprisingly, curious. His heart pounded, but a spark of determination lit within him. This was his chance, not just to represent humanity, but to show that humans could stand among the stars as equals. The next days were a whirlwind. Kale traveled to Varen's homeworld, a planet of towering mountains, deep valleys, and cities carved from living rock. The journey itself tested his patience and endurance, but he was unshaken. When he arrived, he was introduced to Arlena. She was unlike any human or alien Kale had ever seen. Her features were sharp yet delicate, with a gaze that seemed to pierce through deception. Her hair, a cascade of silvery strands, shimmered faintly in the sunlight. Yet according to court standards, she was ugly. Kale couldn't understand it. She was extraordinary. "Kale," she said, her voice calm but steady, "I understand why the council mocks humans. They cannot see past what is familiar to them. But I have chosen to trust my father's judgment. I will work with you if you are willing to do the same with me." Kale nodded. "I am ready. I don't claim to know everything, but I promise to learn and to act when it matters." They spent the next days exploring the palace, discussing strategies, and understanding each other's strengths and weaknesses. Kale quickly realized that Arlena was not merely intelligent. She was a strategist, a thinker, and a diplomat in her own right. Together, they began to plan how to navigate the complex political landscape that awaited them, both on Varen's planet and across the galaxy. Meanwhile, word of Kale's new role spread quickly. Reports reached the council, and the laughter grew louder. How could a human, laughed at for its simplicity, possibly handle the responsibilities of a king's daughter? Kale ignored the whispers. He had learned long ago that humans succeeded not by pleasing others, but by acting with courage and clarity. The first test came sooner than expected. A neighboring planet, known for its aggressive diplomacy, sent a representative to challenge Varen's decision. The alien was imposing, with limbs like steel rods and eyes that glowed with judgment. "You dare send a human to inherit your daughter?" the being demanded. "Do you think your species is worthy of interacting with ours?" Kale stood tall, meeting the alien's gaze. "I do not claim to be the strongest or the fastest," he said calmly. "But I promise this: humanity will act with intelligence, courage, and integrity. If you judge us by your standards alone, you will see only a fraction of what we can do." The alien's eyes narrowed, clearly unimpressed. But Arlena stepped forward, placing a steadying hand on Kale's shoulder. "Judge us by results," she said, "not by assumptions. Watch closely and you may be surprised." It was the first moment Kale realized the true strength of this partnership. Alone, he might have faltered. Together, he and Arlena formed a force that could withstand doubt, mockery, and hostility. By the end of the week, Kale had begun to prove himself in small ways, solving logistical challenges, mediating disputes among palace officials, and offering ideas that no alien court had considered. Each success, though minor, began to shift the perception of the humans among those who watched closely. Even some members of the council, initially mocking, began to observe with a quiet curiosity. Kale and Arlena often stayed up late discussing the future, their voices echoing through the silent palace halls. "Do you really think they will accept humans as equals?" Kale asked one night. They do not have a choice, Arlena replied with a faint smile. Actions speak louder than laughter. We will show them what humans can do together. Kale felt a surge of hope. Perhaps this was the moment humanity had been waiting for, an opportunity to step onto the galactic stage, not as subjects to ridicule, but as partners in shaping the future. The journey ahead would be difficult, full of challenges and fraught with danger. But Kale knew that he and Arlena, united, could face whatever came next. And as the twin suns of Varen's world set over the horizon, painting the sky with hues of gold and crimson, Kale felt something he had never felt before, a sense of purpose, of belonging, and the thrilling certainty that humans, no matter how underestimated, could rise to greatness among the stars. The weeks that followed Kale's arrival on Varen's planet were filled with lessons, challenges, and discoveries. The palace was a labyrinth of towering corridors, shimmering glass walls, and hidden chambers. Every corner seemed alive with whispers, the shifting allegiances of court officials, and the ever-watchful eyes of palace guards. For Kale, it was overwhelming, but he had no choice but to adapt. Arlena, the king's so-called ugly daughter, became both his guide and his partner. She walked with a quiet confidence that belied the scrutiny she faced daily. To outsiders, her appearance did not conform to the planet's strict standards of beauty, and many courtiers whispered that she was unfit for leadership. But Kale quickly learned that these judgments were superficial. Arlena was sharp, perceptive, and fearless, a combination that made her far more formidable than any counselor he had met. Their first official meeting was a trial. Varen summoned Kale and Arlena to the royal council chamber, where advisors, nobles, and diplomats gathered to witness the human experiment unfold. The air was thick with skepticism and curiosity. Kale took a deep breath, straightening his back, and followed Arlena into the room. Today, the king announced, we test not just Kale's ability to represent humanity, but Arlena's capacity to work with him. The galaxy watches closely, and I expect both of you to demonstrate wisdom, strategy, and cooperation. The council room erupted with chatter. Some laughed, others whispered doubts, and a few simply watched in silence, their faces masks of suspicion. Kale felt the weight of the room pressing down on him, but he focused on the task at hand. Your Majesty, Kale began, I do not claim to know all the rules of your politics, nor the intricate customs of this court. But I offer my mind, my reasoning, and my willingness to act where others hesitate. Arlena nodded, adding, and I offer the experience of this world, the knowledge of its people, and the ability to guide us through challenges. Together, we will meet the expectations set before us. A murmur ran through the chamber. It was rare to see such a calm and coordinated partnership form so quickly, especially involving a human. The council members leaned forward, intrigued despite themselves. The first challenge was presented by one of the senior advisors, a tall alien with translucent skin that glowed faintly in the chamber light. There is a neighboring planet, the advisor said, whose trade routes have been disrupted by recent conflicts. They refuse to negotiate unless they are given concessions that would harm our interests. How do you propose we handle this? Kale glanced at Arlena, who tilted her head thoughtfully. We must find a solution that benefits both parties, she said. Concessions are necessary, but they must be strategic. We cannot sacrifice long-term stability for short-term gain. Kale took a deep breath. We need to understand what the other planet values most. Then we can offer something they desire without compromising our own strength. It may require creative thinking, solutions that other species might overlook because they assume rigidity in negotiations. The room fell silent. Several council members exchanged glances, clearly unprepared for a human suggesting an approach based on creativity and empathy rather than force or intimidation. Very well, the advisor said finally. You will take responsibility for this negotiation. Consider it a test of your capacity to think beyond what is expected. Kale and Arlena left the chamber, heading to the communications hub where the council conducted interstellar negotiations. The hub was a dizzying array of holographic displays, maps, and communication channels. Kale's mind raced as he processed the information, while Arlena guided him through the technical procedures. "Remember," she said softly, "our strength lies not in matching their power but in understanding their motives. Humans can do this well. Trust yourself." Kale nodded, feeling a surge of determination. He reached out through the communication channel and established contact with the diplomats from the neighboring planet. The conversation began tensely, with accusations and demands exchanged rapidly. But Kale remained calm, listening carefully, asking questions and probing for the underlying needs behind their words. Hours passed, and slowly the negotiations shifted. Kale suggested creative compromises, offering shared access to trade routes, promising assistance in infrastructure development, and proposing cultural exchanges to build trust. The diplomats, initially hostile, began to respond positively, intrigued by the humans' unorthodox approach. By the end of the day, Kale and Arlena had secured an agreement that preserved Varen's interests while appeasing the neighboring planet. It was a success that stunned even the most skeptical members of the court. Word of their achievement spread quickly, reaching the ears of the Galactic Council. Some members scoffed, claiming it was a minor victory, unworthy of attention, but others began to take note. Perhaps humans were not as incapable as they had assumed. Despite the success, Kale knew the real challenges were only beginning. The council's scrutiny was relentless, and every step forward was met with doubt or opposition. Court politics were as complex as any battlefield, and he and Arlena had to navigate them carefully. One evening, as they walked along the palace terraces, Kale spoke quietly. "Do you think they will ever accept humans as equals?" Arlena looked out over the city lights, her expression thoughtful. "Some may never accept it, but we do not need their approval. We need results, and if we continue to succeed, the rest will follow whether they like it or not." Kale felt a renewed sense of purpose. Humans had always faced doubt and adversity, yet they had found ways to thrive. This was no different. With Arlena at his side, he felt ready to face whatever the galaxy could throw at them. Their partnership deepened over the following weeks. Arlena taught Kale the nuances of court etiquette, the hidden alliances within the palace, and the subtleties of diplomacy that spanned multiple worlds. Kale, in turn, shared human approaches to problem-solving, emphasizing flexibility, empathy, and creative thinking. They complemented each other perfectly, each filling gaps in the other's knowledge. Challenges continued to come. One morning, a messenger arrived with troubling news. A faction of rogue council members was spreading rumors that Kale had manipulated Arlena, seeking power for himself rather than acting in the kingdom's interest. The whispers threatened to undermine their progress. Kale clenched his fists. "I will not allow lies to dictate our actions," he said firmly. "We must act openly and decisively to counter this." Arlena agreed. "Then we show them our competence. Let results speak louder than words." Together, they devised a plan. Kale would lead a humanitarian mission to a nearby colony suffering from a natural disaster, while Arlena coordinated diplomatic support to ensure resources and aid reached those in need. The mission would be visible to the council and the public, proving their commitment to integrity and effectiveness. The mission was grueling. Kale and his team faced dangerous terrain, extreme weather, and logistical challenges that tested every skill they possessed. Arlena's coordination from the palace ensured that supplies and reinforcements arrived on time. Every obstacle was met with ingenuity. Kale improvised transportation methods, negotiated with local leaders, and solved unexpected problems with human ingenuity. When they returned, the results spoke for themselves. Thousands of lives had been saved, communities had been stabilized, and the council could no longer ignore the humans' capability. The rumors and whispers faded, replaced by cautious admiration. Even some of the most skeptical members began to acknowledge that humans, and Kale in particular, had unexpected strength. One evening, after the mission, Kale and Arlena sat together in the palace gardens. The twin moons cast a gentle silver light over the flowers and fountains, creating a serene atmosphere. Kale let out a long breath, feeling the weight of the past weeks lift slightly. "You were right," he said, looking at Arlena. "Actions do speak louder than laughter." Arlena smiled faintly. "And humans have a way of surprising others, but this is only the beginning. The galaxy will continue to test us. There will be challenges that are far greater than this." Kale nodded. "Then we face them together." "I've never worked with anyone like you before." "And I have never worked with a human like you," Arlena replied. "You see beyond appearances, beyond expectations. That is a rare quality in this galaxy." As they walked back to the palace, Kale realized how much he had grown. He had arrived as a nervous human, laughed at by the council and underestimated by nearly everyone. Yet, through determination, courage, and partnership with Arlena, he had begun to carve a place for humanity in the galaxy's complex political landscape. The council still observed, still doubted, but Kale no longer feared their judgment. He had learned that perception could be challenged, and that results could speak louder than ridicule. Arlena's trust in him had strengthened his confidence, and together, they had proven that humans could rise to challenges that seemed impossible. For the first time, Kale felt that humanity might not just survive in the galaxy, it could thrive. And with Arlena by his side, he knew they would continue to defy expectations, reshape perceptions, and perhaps, one day, change the course of interstellar history. As the twin moons rose higher in the sky, casting long shadows over the palace, Kale looked toward the horizon, feeling both anticipation and determination. The journey ahead would be difficult, filled with obstacles, intrigue, and unforeseen challenges. But for the first time, he felt ready. The human who had once been mocked had begun to step into a role that could influence entire civilizations. And with Arlena, the so-called ugly daughter, he was no longer alone in facing the galaxy. Together, they would prove that humans could rise among the stars, not by strength or appearance, but by courage, intelligence, and the unwavering determination to succeed where others had doubted them. The council's chambers were quiet when Kale and Arlena received the summons. It was unusual for them to be called without prior notice, and the silence in the hallway made Kale uneasy. Arlena, however, walked confidently, her steps steady, her head held high. "Whatever they want," she said softly, "we face it together. That has not changed." Inside the chamber, council members from countless worlds sat in poised judgment. Their eyes, sharp and calculating, followed Kale and Arlena as they entered. There was no laughter this time, only expectation. The council had watched their previous successes, and though some remained skeptical, the humans' ability to solve problems had begun to earn quiet respect. "Kale, Arlena," the council head began, his voice measured and deliberate. "You have proven your competence in local matters. But interstellar challenges require more than negotiation and logistics. They require vision, strategy, and foresight. We are sending you on a mission that will test all these qualities." Kale straightened, absorbing the weight of the words. "We are ready," he said. The mission involved mediating a tense dispute between two neighboring star systems, the Viral and the Korath. Both systems were rich in resources, and decades of mistrust had escalated into skirmishes and threats of war. The council had failed to find a resolution, leaving the galaxy on edge. Kale and Arlena were to act as neutral arbiters, using diplomacy to prevent open conflict. Arlena examined the data displayed on the council's holographic table. The Viral valued technology and innovation. The Koreth prize loyalty and honor above all. We must address their concerns in a way that satisfies both cultures, or this mission will fail before it begins. Kale nodded, and we will need to anticipate their moves, predict their responses. They will test us at every step, but humans are good at adapting. We can do this. The journey to the contested systems was long, but Kale and Arlena used the time wisely. They studied the histories, cultures, and political structures of both systems. They analyzed past conflicts, noting patterns of behavior, alliances, and points of tension. For Kale, it was a lesson in understanding alien thought processes, while Arlena offered insight into customs that had been ingrained for generations. Upon arrival, the scale of the conflict became immediately clear. Ships patrolled the borders, weapons primed, and scouts reported signs of sabotage and espionage on both sides. The first meeting between the Viral and Koreth leaders was tense. Kale and Arlena were introduced to both councils in a neutral hall aboard a massive space station orbiting a barren moon. The Viral ambassador, a sleek figure with metallic skin and eyes that glowed a faint blue, spoke first. "We demand access to the Koreth's mineral resources. Their refusal undermines our technological progress and threatens the stability of our people." The Koreth leader, a massive being with scaled green skin and powerful limbs, responded with equal intensity. "Your demands show disrespect for our sovereignty. We have upheld peace for decades, yet your actions seek only to exploit our resources." Kale inhaled deeply, studying both leaders. Their words were charged with centuries of mistrust, but there was a path forward. "We are here to find a solution that ensures stability and prosperity for both systems," Kale began. "This conflict is not about domination. It is about survival, cooperation, and understanding." The room fell silent. Kale continued, "We can offer a program that allows joint access to the resources, managed by a council of representatives from both systems. Technology and oversight will ensure fairness, while agreements on loyalty and mutual respect will protect each system's values. This solution benefits both parties without forcing surrender or compromise of identity." The Viral ambassador raised an eyebrow. "And why should we trust humans to design this system?" Kale smiled faintly. "Because humans thrive in situations where complexity seems insurmountable. We see opportunities where others see only conflict. You may doubt us, but our success depends not on strength alone, but on creativity and adaptability. And we will not fail." Arlena added, "Trust is earned through action. Let us demonstrate our commitment through the first steps of this agreement. Allow our proposed system to be implemented, monitored, and adjusted as necessary. Results will speak louder than promises." Negotiations continued for hours. The Viral were concerned about technological oversight, fearing interference with their industrial processes. The Koreth worried about maintaining loyalty and cultural integrity under shared governance. Kale and Arlena addressed each concern carefully, proposing solutions that took both sides' values into account. At one point, a rogue faction of council members attempted to interfere, sending messages to the leaders suggesting that Kale and Arlena were acting in their own interest. The Koreth leader, already suspicious of outsiders, nearly walked out of the meeting. Kale remained calm, presenting evidence of neutrality, transparency, and fairness. Arlena coordinated the presentation, highlighting the benefits for both systems and emphasizing the importance of collaboration. Slowly, the leaders' hostility softened. By the end of the day, tentative agreements were made, allowing joint access to resources, shared governance, and oversight systems that balanced technological innovation with cultural respect. The first step of the mission was a success. Kale and Arlena had prevented a potential war, demonstrating the value of human insight and the strength of their partnership. Yet, the work was far from over. As they returned to their quarters aboard the station, Arlena spoke quietly. You handled the Council's interference well. They expected us to falter, yet we proved them wrong. Kale nodded. They will try again. Some will never accept that humans can achieve results. But I've learned that as long as we act with integrity and intelligence, the truth becomes undeniable. The next days involved monitoring the implementation of the agreements, addressing minor disputes, and responding to unexpected challenges. Kale's human ingenuity was tested constantly. When a supply ship carrying vital minerals was damaged during transit, he quickly devised a temporary repair system using available materials, ensuring that neither side suffered losses. Arlena observed his actions with quiet admiration. "You think differently than anyone else here," she said. "You see solutions where others see only problems. That is why humans are underestimated. They do not fit conventional expectations." Kale smiled faintly. "Perhaps. But we also act when others hesitate. That is our strength." Despite their successes, opposition remained. Certain council members, unwilling to accept human competence, plotted to sabotage future missions. They spread rumors, manipulated data, and sought to create misunderstandings between Kale and Arlena. The human and the princess remained vigilant, learning to anticipate these tactics and respond with transparency and diplomacy. One evening, a direct challenge arrived. A powerful alien senator, whose home system had been skeptical of Kale's previous achievements, sent a message demanding that Kale and Arlena resolve a dispute over a contested trade route. The senator implied that failure would result in immediate recall and public disgrace. Kale reviewed the situation. The trade route connected multiple star systems, each with conflicting demands and regulations. The complexity was daunting. Yet he felt a familiar spark of determination. Humans thrived in situations where others felt trapped. "We approach this like a puzzle," he said to Arlena. "Each party has interests, constraints, and priorities. If we map them carefully and identify common ground, we can create a solution that satisfies everyone." Arlena nodded. "And we must act quickly. Delays will be seen as weakness. Let's begin." Over the next several days, Kale and Arlena worked tirelessly. They communicated with representatives from multiple systems, analyzed trade flows, and identified mutually beneficial adjustments. Kale suggested flexible scheduling, shared oversight, and incentives for cooperation, ideas that were unconventional but effective. The senator's representatives arrived to review the proposals. Initially, they were hostile, questioning every detail and doubting Kale's competence. Yet, as he calmly explained the logic, demonstrated potential outcomes, and addressed concerns, skepticism began to fade. Arlena provided additional cultural context, reinforcing the fairness and practicality of the plan. By the end of the review, the trade route was successfully reorganized. Each system benefited according to its priorities, and the senator reluctantly acknowledged the success. Kale and Arlena had turned another potential failure into proof of human ingenuity and strategic thinking. News of their success spread rapidly through the council and the galaxy. Some members, previously dismissive, began to reconsider their opinions. Others remained skeptical, but even they could not deny the results. Kale and Arlena had demonstrated that humans could adapt, innovate, and succeed where traditional approaches had failed. One night, after a particularly long day, Kale and Arlena stood on the observation deck of the space station. The stars stretched endlessly before them, vast and brilliant, each a reminder of the infinite possibilities of the galaxy. "You've changed my perspective," Kale admitted. "I didn't realize how much impact humans could have. We may be underestimated, but we are capable of more than I imagined." Arlena smiled. "Humans have always achieved remarkable things when they are underestimated. Your species thrives on ingenuity, courage, and persistence. Those qualities will carry you far in this galaxy." Kale looked out at the stars, feeling a sense of pride and purpose. The journey had been difficult, filled with challenges and doubt, but he had proven that humans were not merely passengers in the galaxy. They could shape it, influence it, and lead it in unexpected ways. The following weeks involved continued missions, each more complex than the last. Kale and Arlena faced natural disasters, political intrigues, and conflicts that had persisted for generations. Every challenge required careful analysis, creative problem-solving, and unwavering cooperation. Yet, with each success, the perception of humans began to shift. Even the council members who had once mocked Kale could no longer ignore the evidence. Humans were not weak, not primitive, and not insignificant. They were adaptable, intelligent, and capable of forging solutions where others saw only obstacles. Kale's partnership with Arlena had proven that collaboration across cultures and species could achieve what individuals alone could not. As their reputation grew, so did their influence. Leaders from distant systems sought their advice, requested their mediation, and observed their methods. Kale and Arlena had become symbols of possibility, a reminder that courage, intelligence, and cooperation could overcome prejudice, skepticism, and doubt. And yet Kale knew that their journey was far from over. The galaxy was vast, full of challenges that had yet to appear, and opponents who would test their resolve. But for the first time, he felt certain that humans had a place among the stars. With Arlena at his side, the princess once dismissed as ugly, but now recognized as brilliant and capable, he was ready to face whatever the galaxy could throw at them. Together, they had begun to reshape perceptions, proving that humans were more than their appearance, their strength, or their technology. They were thinkers, problem solvers, and partners capable of achieving greatness in the most unexpected ways. And as the stars stretched endlessly before them, Kale felt a deep sense of pride. The council had mocked him once, but now humans were no longer invisible. They had begun to rise, step by step, mission by mission, toward a place where their ingenuity, courage, and determination would be recognized throughout the galaxy. Months had passed since Kale and Arlena first stepped into the Galactic Council's Grand Hall. What had begun as a human's audacious attempt to prove himself had grown into a campaign of unprecedented success, earning cautious respect from skeptics and admiration from those who valued results. Yet, the council had not forgotten its doubts. Their final test awaited, a galaxy-wide crisis that would determine not only Kale's place among the stars but the future perception of humanity itself. The message arrived without warning. A massive spatial storm, unlike anything previously recorded, was moving toward the inhabited systems of the Zero cluster. Entire planets faced potential destruction. Trade routes, colonies, and key resources were at risk. The Council scrambled to respond, issuing directives, mobilizing fleets, and debating contingency plans. But bureaucracy slowed every action, and disputes among council members delayed decisive responses. King Varen called Kale and Arlena to his chambers immediately. The king's eyes were sharp, his normally calm demeanor strained. The council hesitates, arguing over responsibility protocol and who holds authority, he said. This storm will not wait. Lives will be lost if action is delayed. You and Arlena must act. You have proven your capability. This is your opportunity to demonstrate what humans and your partnership can accomplish. Kale felt the familiar surge of determination. We will not waste time. We will coordinate evacuations, protect resources, and ensure the survival of as many systems as possible. Arlena nodded. And we will do it together. Humanity and this planet both can rise to the occasion. Their first step was to analyze the storm. Massive data streams from sensor satellites showed that its trajectory was erratic, shifting unpredictably due to gravitational anomalies in nearby star systems. Traditional navigation and prediction methods were inadequate. Kale and Arlena, Using a combination of human improvisation and Arlena's local expertise, developed a dynamic model that accounted for variables ignored by conventional techniques. This will allow us to anticipate the storm's path and identify which colonies are most at risk, Kale explained. We can prioritize evacuations and allocate resources efficiently. Arlena added, we also need to communicate quickly. The Council's fleet is indecisive, but local planetary defenses can act immediately if given accurate predictions. Over the following hours, Kale coordinated with planetary governors, fleet commanders, and emergency response teams. Using real-time data, he issued evacuation directives, rerouted ships, and optimized supply chains. Arlena's diplomatic skills ensured cooperation across species, resolving disputes that could have delayed action. The first test came as a cluster of ships attempting to evacuate a Zero colony was caught in a sudden gravitational surge, threatening to tear vessels apart. Kale analyzed the situation, quickly devising a maneuver that would allow the ships to escape safely. Use the gravitational anomaly to your advantage, he instructed the fleet commanders. Adjust your trajectory incrementally, trust the calculations. The ships followed his guidance, and one by one they escaped the surge. The colony's population was safe, and Kale's strategy had prevented what could have been catastrophic losses. Word of his success reached the council, but not all were pleased. Several members, unwilling to concede human capability, attempted to claim credit for his actions or minimize their significance. Kale ignored them, focusing instead on the task at hand. Results, not recognition, mattered. The storm continued its relentless advance. Entire systems were at risk, and resources were stretched thin. Kale and Arlena faced challenges beyond strategy. They had to inspire confidence among frightened populations, manage political rivalries, and ensure that cooperation remained intact despite fear and chaos. At one point, a critical communication hub on a resource-rich planet was damaged, cutting off the flow of vital information. Without it, evacuation efforts could stall, leaving thousands at risk. Kale and Arlena coordinated a rapid repair mission, personally overseeing the deployment of engineers and drones. Kale improvised a temporary relay system using available satellites, restoring communications in record time. Arlena marveled at his ability to adapt. You see solutions where others see disaster, she said. Humans are underestimated because they do not conform to expectations. Kale smiled faintly. Perhaps, but we act when action is needed. That is what matters now. As the storm approached the densest clusters of inhabited planets, Kale proposed a bold maneuver. Instead of attempting to shield every system individually, a task that would spread resources too thin, he suggested creating a network of controlled deflection points. By using planetary magnetic fields and strategically positioned ships, they could slightly alter the storm's trajectory, minimizing destruction while safeguarding the most vulnerable areas. Some advisors were skeptical, warning that failure could make the disaster worse. Kale considered the risks carefully, then replied, "The storm moves with predictable chaos. If we act boldly but precisely, we can achieve results that hesitation cannot." With Arlena's coordination, the plan was executed. Fleets positioned at critical points, planetary defenses activated in precise sequences, and calculations were continuously adjusted. The storm, massive and threatening, began to bend along the intended path. Over several tense hours, Kale and Arlena guided the galaxy's defenses like conductors leading an orchestra. Ships maneuvered with exacting precision, planetary shields synchronized, and emergency crews evacuated populations under Kale's careful direction. By the time the storm passed, the damage was far less than predicted. Thousands of lives had been saved, trade routes remained largely intact, and the galaxy's infrastructure survived the near catastrophe. News of the successful operation spread quickly. The council, previously divided and skeptical, had no choice but to acknowledge the humans' contribution. Kale's strategies, combined with Arlena's diplomacy, had not only prevented disaster, but had also unified multiple species in coordinated action. King Varen summoned Kale and Arlena to his chambers once more. "You have done more than any of us expected," he said. "The galaxy has witnessed what humans can achieve, and you have proven that partnership and ingenuity can triumph over even the greatest challenges." Kale shook his head. "It was not just me. Arlena's insight, leadership, and wisdom made this possible. We acted together." Arlena smiled. "And the galaxy will remember that. They may have mocked humans before, but now they cannot deny our capability." The final council session was extraordinary. Representatives from across the galaxy gathered, many of whom had doubted Kale's competence. The room, once filled with whispers and laughter at humanity's expense, now carried a different energy: curiosity, respect, and cautious admiration. The council head addressed Kale directly. "You have exceeded expectations. Your actions have preserved countless lives, stabilized critical systems, and demonstrated qualities we did not anticipate in your species. How do you respond to the accusations that humans are incapable of leadership, diplomacy, or strategic thinking?" Kale stepped forward, his voice steady. "I respond with the truth. Humans are capable of all these things, not because we are the strongest or the fastest or the most technologically advanced, but because we act when others hesitate, we find solutions where others see only problems, and we adapt when circumstances demand it. Humanity has been underestimated for centuries, and today the galaxy has seen why that is a mistake." A murmur ran through the chamber, some members nodding, others silent in contemplation. Arlena stepped forward, placing a supportive hand on Kale's shoulder. "Humans are not the only ones who benefit from ingenuity and courage. Collaboration, respect, and trust between species create strength greater than any individual alone. Together, we have proven that even the most complex challenges can be met with determination and cooperation." The council erupted into applause, not unanimous but significant enough to signal a shift in perception. Kale felt a sense of fulfillment unlike any he had experienced before. He had arrived as a human mocked and underestimated, yet he was leaving as a symbol of possibility, a representative of what humanity could achieve among the stars. After the session, Kale and Arlena walked through the grand hall, now filled with members offering congratulations rather than skepticism. Some approached to ask advice, others simply nodded in acknowledgement. Kale realized that humanity's place in the galaxy had been transformed, not through brute force or conquest, but through courage, intelligence, and the willingness to act decisively. King Varen joined them, his expression one of pride. "I chose wisely," he said. "You have inherited more than my daughter. You have inherited the trust and recognition of the galaxy. Humanity has proven itself, and your partnership has set an example that will be remembered for generations." Kale looked at Arlena, her eyes reflecting the soft light of the hall. "We did it," he said quietly. Arlena smiled. "We did, and this is only the beginning. There will always be new challenges, new crises, and new opportunities. But now, humanity is no longer underestimated. We have a voice, and the galaxy will listen." The twin suns of Varen's planet began to rise over the horizon, casting golden light across the palace. Kale felt a profound sense of purpose. He had arrived as a human laughed at by the council, yet he now stood at the center of interstellar diplomacy, a symbol of what his species could achieve. The galaxy was vast, filled with unknown threats and boundless possibilities. But Kale, with Arlena by his side, was ready. Together they would face whatever came next, guiding humanity and their allies with courage, intelligence, and integrity. For the first time, Kale truly understood the power of partnership, of human ingenuity, and of standing firm in the face of doubt. The council's mockery had transformed into respect, skepticism into admiration, and underestimation into recognition. As the light of the twin suns bathed the palace in warmth, Kale and Arlena looked out over the world below, ready to continue their journey. The galaxy was no longer a place of ridicule for humans. It was a stage upon which they could rise, not as observers, but as leaders, innovators, and partners. And so the human who had once been mocked, and the princess once dismissed for her appearance, became symbols of hope, courage, and possibility. Their legacy would not be measured in titles or power alone, but in the lives saved, the alliances forged, and the undeniable proof that humans could rise above expectation to shape the galaxy's future. The Council had mocked a human. The galaxy had doubted him. But Kale, with intelligence, courage, and partnership, had shown that humans were capable of greatness beyond imagination. The stars now held new promise, and humanity's place among them was no longer in question. The journey of Kale and Arlena had changed everything. And though the galaxy would continue to challenge them, they faced the future with confidence, knowing that together they could overcome anything. The stars stretched endlessly, and with them, endless possibilities awaited. Humanity had arrived, and the galaxy would never underestimate them again. The Galactic Council mocked a human until he inherited the king's ugly daughter.